Hello, this is my how-to. Take apart and reassemble the M4 magazine. This is of the ICS brand. I don't have very much experience with magazines. This is the first one I've ever taken apart and putting back together. I'm assuming that they all work pretty much the same. So this video may be helpful for you even if you don't have the ICS brand. Okay, what you're going to need is you're going to need a 2.0 metric Allen head, Allen key, and a screwdriver with a fair point on it. A blunt point won't really do you any good with this. Alright, first step is you're going to want to loosen, well actually you're going to want to take out this bolt right here. It's Allen key. It's actually the only Allen key bolt here. That's why you need this. And you're going to want to take that off. You'll be able to remove the internals. You're going to want to open your door. Put your finger in there. You can either use the Allen key or the screwdriver. It doesn't matter. What you're going to need to push in little plastic clips on the sides. Maybe you like to push in both at the same time. I'm not sure. I only had to push in one for some reason. And then pull out the inside. Set that aside. This right here is what you got. This is the end. You're going to want to lay down on its back. Okay, so you're going to lay this down, and you want to locate all the screws. I have two different models of the ICS high cap mag for the M4. This particular one has 3 screws. The other has 5. This all really depends on what particular model you have. You're going to want to take out all the screws, so any that you see, take them out. Alright, so now once you have your screws out, you're going to want to keep it laid down on that side. And you're going to want to gently, as carefully as you can, split the 2 halves. This little tiny ring will end up falling off of it's actually on the outside. It'll end up falling off of the shaft that holds one of the gears. So you're going to want to make sure that you catch that, you don't drop that. Put that off to the side. So now, what you're going to have is if you did it carefully enough, actually, everything should still be in its place. My little switch thing with the spring ended up popping out a little bit. But once you have those 2 halves split, this is what you should have. So, this is pretty much just how to get into this. Now, it depends on what your problem is, why you're opening it up. If you're having any kind of tension problems, or it's just not winding at all, that may be that the coil has become unsecured from the center, or it broke, or anything. So what you're going to want to do to check that out is pull this little cog right off of the top of this coil. Now you're going to have a good look at the coil. You take a look at it. This is how it normally looks. So if it looks any different than that, you might have a problem. Something might have broke. Might have bent the wrong way. May have overwound it. So I'm going to want to put this wheel back on. See that there's holes all around the edge of it. Now these holes are going to line up perfectly with the pins on this wheel that harnesses the coil. You're going to want to go flat side of this wheel down against the coil. You'll see that there's a more rigid side. That one's going to be pointed up. So you're going to want to get that perfectly aligned and then push it down. Make sure it's nice and secure. You'll feel it all push into those holes. Okay. Now if you realize that your problem is that when you wind, it doesn't, the wheel comes back, it doesn't lock, you're not able to hear the click, you're not winding it, it's most likely this spring device right here. You'll see the spring with the black spacer. This round black piece is just a spacer. It goes on the longer arm of the spring. Slides right on. Now the center of the spring fits nicely around this peg. Okay, so now we're going to want to start putting it together. So what you should have, I got you to this point. You're going to have your this little switch that allows the BBs to come up. You're going to want that in there. You're going to want the spring in there. You're going to want to take your door and you're going to want to place it in this little area that holds it securely. Of course, you're going to want the little tab that you pull on to open the door facing upward out of it. You want to take your little square nut, place it sideways in that hole. And now for the catching mechanism. You want to take your black round spacer, slide it onto the longer arm of the spring. Then you're going to want to slide the center of the spring onto the nub that they put right there for that. Hold it securely. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put a little bit of tension. You'll see that there's a little hole underneath the spacer where the tip of the spring that goes through it protrudes, and then it gets held securely in that hole. So once you got everything very well laid out, everything has to be perfect. You make sure that that's all, that the spring protruding is in that hole. That's kind of a tricky spot sometimes. You're gonna want your door in there. You're gonna want your spring in mechanism that allows the BBs to come out, and you're going to want to very gently, very carefully lay the opposite side on top. Make sure that it falls very nicely. There shouldn't be any problem with it falling on by itself. It doesn't take any muscle. All comes together very nicely. If it doesn't for you, I'd suggest taking it back apart and making sure everything's in its place. Okay. Hold it together securely. You want to put your screws back in. So now, when your screws are very well secured, you're going to take this little round axle lock. You're going to place it on top of that axle that protrudes out. Just push it down. Just make sure that it touches down to the plastic. You don't want to squeeze it on really hard. You'll probably create some tension in the gears, which you don't want. Alright. Make sure you hear the click noise when you wind this. Sounds like everything's good. You can, even while you have this open, you can drop some BBs in here and wind them up and make sure that they get pushed out. Make sure that they get pushed up, you know. Just so you don't end up putting it all back together and then ends up, take it apart again, make it right. Slide it all back in. Push it down. Final step. Put your little Allen screw back in the bottom. Tighten that well. Not too hard though. You don't want to strip it. And there you go.